would be rather nice to have. He might scratch and spit, but he couldn't do anything really. Let's track him down."
So we set off into the wide, snow-clad world, hand in hand, our hearts big with expectation, complacently confident that by a few smudgy traces in the snow, we were in a fair way to capture a half-grown specimen of a fabulous beast. We ran the monster across the paddock and along the hedge of the next field, and then he took to the road like any tame civilized taxpayer. Here his tracks became blended with and lost among other ordinary footprints. But imagination and a fixed idea will do a great deal, and we were sure we knew the direction a dragon would naturally take. The traces, too, kept reappearing at intervals. At least Charlotte maintained they did. And as it was her dragon, I left the following of the slot to her and trotted along peacefully, feeling it was an expedition anyhow, and something was sure to come of it. Charlotte took me across another field or two, through a copse, and into a fresh road, and I began to feel sure it was her confounded pride that made her go on pretending to see dragon tracks instead of owning she was entirely at fault like a reasonable person. At last she dragged me excitedly through a gap in a hedge of an obviously private character. The waste, open world of field and hedgerow disappeared, and we found ourselves in a garden, well-kept, secluded, and most undragon-haunted in appearance. Once inside, I knew where we were. This was the garden of my good friend, the circus man, though I had never approached it before by a lawless gap from the unfamiliar side. And here was the circus man himself, placidly smoking a pipe as he strolled up and down the walks. I stepped up to him and asked him politely if he had lately seen a beast.
"May I inquire what particular sort of beast you may happen to be looking for?"
"It's a lizardly sort of beast. Charlotte says it's a dragon, but she doesn't really know much about beasts." The circus man looked around him very, very slowly.
"I don't think I've seen a dragon in these parts recently, but if I come across one, I'll know it belongs to you, and I'll have him taken round to you at once."
"Thank you very much, but don't trouble about it, please, 'cause perhaps it isn't a dragon after all. Only I thought I saw his little footprints in the snow, and we followed him up, and they seemed to lead right in here, but maybe it's all a mistaken. Thank you all the same."
"Oh, no trouble at all. I should only be too pleased. But, of course, as you say, it may be a mistake. And it's getting dark, and he seems to have got away for the present, whatever he is. You'd better come in and have some tea. I'm quite alone, and we'll make a roaring fire, and I've got the biggest book of beasts you ever saw. It's got every beast in the world, and all of them colored. And we'll try and find your beast in it."
We were always ready for tea at any time, and especially when combined with beasts. There was marmalade, too, and apricot jam brought in expressly for us. And afterwards the beast book was spread out, and as the man had truly said, it contained every sort of beast that had ever been in the world. The striking of 6 o'clock set the more prudent Charlotte nudging me, and we recalled ourselves with an effort from Beastland, and reluctantly stood up to go.
"Here, I'm coming with you. I want another pipe, and a walk will do me good. You needn't talk to me unless you like."
Our spirits rose to their wonted level again. The way had seemed so long, the outside world so dark and eerie after the bright warm room and the highly colored beast book. But a walk with a real man, why, that was a treat in itself. We set off briskly, the man in the middle. I looked up at him and wondered whether I should ever live to grow so big and tall and walk with that careless sort of majesty. But Charlotte, whose young mind was not set on growing as a possible goal, made herself heard from the other side.
Now, tell us a story, please, won't you?
The man sighed heavily and looked about him.
I knew it. I knew I should have to tell a story. Oh, why did I leave my pleasant fireside? Well, I will tell you a story. Only let me think a minute.
So he thought a minute, and then he told us this story.
Long ago, might have been hundreds of years ago, in a cottage halfway between this village and yonder shoulder, lived a shepherd with his wife and their little son. Now, the shepherd spent his days, and at certain times of the year his nights too, up on the wide ocean bosom of the downs, with only the sun and the stars and the sheep for company, and the friendly chattering world of men and women far out of sight and hearing. But his little son, when he wasn't helping his father, and often when he was as well, spent much of his time buried in big volumes that he borrowed from the affable gentry and interesting parsons of the country round about. And his parents were very fond of him, and rather proud of him too, though they didn't let on in his hearing. So he was left to go his own way and read as much as he liked. And instead of frequently getting a cuff on the side of the head, as might very well have happened to him, he was treated more or less as an equal by his parents, who sensibly thought it a very fair division of labor that they should be in charge of the practical knowledge and he the book learning. They knew that book learning often came in useful at a pinch, in spite of what the neighbors said. What the boy chiefly dabbled in was natural history and fairy tales. And he just took them as they came, in a sandwichy sort of way, without making any distinctions. And really his course of reading strikes one as rather sensible. One evening, the shepherd, who for some nights past had been disturbed and preoccupied and off his usual mental balance, came home all of a tremble, and sitting down at the table where his wife and his son were peacefully employed, she with her seam, and he in following out the adventures of a giant with no heart in his body, exclaimed with much agitation,
"It's all up with me, Maria. Never no more can I go up on them there downs. Was it ever so?"
Said his wife, who was a very sensible woman.
Now, don't you take on like that, but tell us all about it first. Whatever it is as given you this shake-up, and then me and you and the son here between us, we ought to be able to get to the bottom of it.
It began some nights ago. You know that cave up there? I never liked it somehow, and the sheep never liked it neither. And when sheep don't like a thing, there's generally some reason for it. Well, for some time past, there's been faint noises coming from that cave. Noises like heavy sighings, with grunts mixed up in them. And sometimes a snoring. Far away down. Real snoring. Yet somehow not honest snoring like you and me o' nights, you know.
I know.
Of course I was terrible frightened, yet somehow I couldn't keep away. So